right, welcome to another episode of Poncha Talk. My name is Ellie. I am host of Poncha Talk, and in this podcast, we talk about all topics related to remote work, a digital nomad lifestyle, and anything about how to build for yourself that flexible life or pursuing your passion, whatever it may be for you. And today's actually the first episode of Poncha Talk that is going to be virtually. So I hope everything works out with the recording. But I am very excited to have Angela Lewis join us today from the US. And she will share her story of how she started with a professional athlete career, actually, and then transitioned throughout life to eventually working remotely and living and loving a nomad lifestyle in Latin America, in Colombia. So I'm very excited to have her join us and to share her story with you today. Well, first off, thank you, Angela Lewis, for being on the show. I'm very excited to have you here on Poncha Talk today. I was really excited when you reached out about the podcast because I looked at your profile and your background and journey is quite impressive because you've done so many different things. I mean, you started off as in a professional athlete career, and then you've started your own business and the nonprofit work. You've worked remotely from South America, now working remotely from the US again. So it's quite the journey. And I talked about this in a previous episode already. I'm in a bit of a transition phase myself in life right now because I quit my previous job and I'm looking to go into a completely different field. So for me, it's always really encouraging to see other people who have had a lot of transitions in their life and have managed them successfully. So I'm excited to talk to you today to learn more about your journey and the different steps in your career so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. I'm so excited to chat with you, and hopefully some of my transitions and the lessons I've learned will be valuable to you and your listeners as well.
I'm sure they will be. Maybe you can just start by introducing yourself briefly, tell a bit about what you do right now and like a high-level overview of how you got there, and then we'll dive deeper into
Sure.
it.
Sure, absolutely. So, Angela R. Lewis, the R is for rhythm, right? Like trying to get life in getting in rhythm is really key. And I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but basketball, as Ellie mentioned, was the silver lining in my life that opened so many doors. So I'm 6'1". I've been this tall since I was 12 years old, and I was very uncomfortable as a young girl being this tall. But basketball was the place that I gained confidence and learned how to use my voice, learned how to practice, which we can talk about a little bit more as we talk about transitions. But I learned how to get better at something and played professionally in Germany, which was my first time living in another country. And from there, I came back to the States and started coaching basketball. And my heart has always been for service and helping others thrive. And so that's led to nonprofit work and it's led to me starting a business where I helped speakers get more speaking opportunities, but then also led to me working with Speaker Hub as the head of operations. So I help us stay in rhythm and things flow smoothly as we help speakers globally share their voices. And so I'm just grateful for all of the opportunities and challenges along the way.
That sounds great. We've only met remotely, but I'm actually also
Mhm.
tall. I'm not quite as tall. I'm like 5'10", 5'11". So I can totally
Yes.
relate to the insecurities that initially come with being tall. But I'm glad to hear that you found your passion in basketball and your confidence in basketball. Being a professional athlete, that's also something that's like really inspiring to me because it takes a lot of work. I mean, I was never the athlete in my family. My brother was always the one who ran track at college and played volleyball, and he's still playing volleyball in California right now at a pretty high level. But yeah, it takes a lot of work and discipline and routine to really
Yeah.
do it professionally in that way. So I've always aspired that. So, since your work was so centered around basketball, being an athlete is also a quite short-lived career, of course, because eventually your body just is not made for it anymore. And I've read some statistics also that a lot of athletes then struggle a lot with transitioning into something else after because your whole life is centered around it. Was that
Yeah.
difficult for you?
It was difficult. It was very difficult because when you focus your life on being an athlete, you're in that rhythm, but you don't know another rhythm because you've been doing that thing for so long. And when I started playing basketball, I wasn't very good. Like I was tall. And Ellie, I'm sure you get this too. When you're tall, people just expect you to be good at sports because you're tall. But I wasn't. And so the gift in that is that I learned how to get better. And I can always go back to how to get better. So the transition to bring it back is I didn't know how to be good at something else. And so I had to learn different skills and ended up working with nonprofits and helping people. And I worked in schools and we took kids on college tours. And the skill that I ended up learning was how to operate programs and how to manage projects and how to really serve people in a more structured way.
That's interesting that you say you were not even good at basketball initially.
No, God, no.
But then you just learned how to. And I mean, I guess for any transition, it's so important to be open to learning a new skill. How do you go
It
about
is.
that? Like also with the next steps that you took.
So from playing to coaching, that was kind of the most natural because it was still around something I knew. So a tip would be whatever your interest is, what's adjacent to that interest. So maybe you're working in marketing, but you don't really like doing marketing and you don't like running ads, right? But maybe you like copywriting, or maybe there's something right next to the thing that you're doing that you can explore. So for people who are transitioning from sport, well, there's sales, sports sales for tickets. There's product development. Maybe you really like shoes, so you can look into creating shoes. So whatever the next thing is, it doesn't have to be polar opposite. As we'll kind of get into, everything that I've done has been connected, but it was unintentional. And so I recommend looking at how you can intentionally connect your transitions. Because oftentimes we think of transitions as something completely different. It doesn't always have to be.
Maybe, and even maybe sometimes it looks like something completely different from the outside, but
Yes.
maybe there's also like I'm sure the mindset of just being an athlete is something that you have probably taken with you throughout your entire career that has helped you.
Yes, 100%. It's the part of it that I think is the most important and most valuable for anyone listening is just get back up. You know how many times I got literally knocked down and run over and didn't win games. I remember after the game, I missed the game winning shot and just bawling, like sitting, crying, bawling after this game at Cincinnati. And one of my coaches came and was like, okay, well, we have another game in 2 days. So like you literally can't sit and continue to cry all night for the next 3 days because we have another one. And so knowing that there'll be another game or another opportunity, like believing that there'll be another opportunity is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, sometimes it's hard to get back
It
up.
is
So something easier said than done. Have you
what
learned any
um,
tools for yourself?
we need community.
Mhm.
If he wouldn't have said to me, you can get back up, if he wouldn't have showed me the strategies to get back up, then it's really hard. You're right. Getting up alone is hard. We need other people, and we're the only ones who can get ourselves up. Literally, no one else can pick us up. We have to believe and lean on. Sometimes we have to believe on other people's confidence about us in order to move us forward. Even if I don't think I can, it's like, okay, my mom said I'm good. Okay, so I'll do it. Even though I don't believe it. And then after you do it, you can build that confidence within yourself. Even if you don't have to believe it to do it. I think that's the biggest thing. You don't have to believe that you can to actually take action. Just taking action will eventually cultivate the belief
True, and then just build it over time as you see
over time.
success.
And
Yes.
and then you're gonna fall again, Ellie. Like that's the fun part of life. That's the fun part that I have a friend who's has a daughter who's in her late 20s, early 30s. And we have these conversations all the time. And it's like, no, you're going to mess up and you're going to fall and you're going to learn and you're going to get back up and you're going to mess up again. And then you're going to learn. It never ends. And so once you get in the rhythm, it's a rhythm. Once you get in the rhythm of mistake, get up, go again, mistake, then you begin to see that it's okay. And it's just a part of life. I know it's
Yes,
not fun,
that's it.
but you get better at it. You're like, oh God.
I'm thinking right now, how many times do I need to fall and get back up before
Yeah.
I find my rhythm? But no, it's a journey.
Yes.
Yes.
But you'll find your rhythm faster the faster you get up. That's the truth. The faster you get up, the faster you learn the lesson, the rhythm just gets better.
As you continued your journey after basketball, and you had a couple different stations there as well, tell us a little more about that.
Sure. After playing, I started coaching and I coached at high school and then different universities. And so similarly, I had transitions every few years. It was like another opportunity. And I had some friends who like they picked the one thing and they just did that forever. I never haven't done anything more than like 2 years in terms of the same location. Well, 3 years in terms of the same location. And I remember you saying the same thing. You're like, every 2.5 years is something new. But what I learned is it's really all the same thing. It's all helping people, supporting people, creating opportunities for others. And now it's just a bit more refined into helping a business operate more efficiently. Everything led to this rhythm and to this flow. And so there were times where like starting a business was really challenging, but it's supposed to be. Like it's supposed to be hard. But I thought it would be easier. But I found people who knew more who were able to help. So I would say study winners. And part of what helps in transition, winners only being people who've been where you've been, where you're going, where you want to go. So study the people who've been where you want to go.
Mhm.
That makes a big, big difference.
That's an interesting definition of winners. Yeah, doesn't have to be the
Mhm.
biggest person in the world, just somebody who's doing what you want to do. Yeah.
Yes, yes. A lot of times we think it has to be like the billionaire. So if it's
Mhm.
not Oprah, then whatever the person's saying is invaluable. Well, no, like there's someone who may be one or two steps ahead in terms of their career or in terms of knowing how to salsa dance, which I love. But it could be anything. I think we put a lot of emphasis on work and that being the core. I listened to one of your past episodes and you talked about work being the core of your life. And you're like, oh, I really like this because I want to take that hike. Right. So it could be one person ahead of us in various areas of our lives. And you study how they got there and then you can build on that.
Speaking of going different places and also salsa dancing that you said you loved, so at one point in your career, you decided to leave the US and go to South America, to Colombia, I think it was, right?
Yes,
Mostly.
Medellín. Yes.
What was it that inspired this move for you?
I'm so glad you asked. So here's what happened. It was December of 2019, and I was having a conversation with a friend, and she had lived in Thailand and she lives in yurts in Hawaii. I mean, she's a nomad, right? She's done it. And she saw me struggling. And at this time, I was driving Uber. I was trying to run these basketball camps and clinics. And she was like, you don't have to live like this. Like, you're really stressed. There's a more peaceful life. Like, so she said, write down your ideal day. And I wrote down my ideal day. from top to bottom. And I looked at it and I just started crying because it was so far from what I really wanted, but it was all the things I thought I had to say. So I was flying here, flying there, doing this. It was busy, Ellie, like a really busy day. So I wiped my tears and then she said, no, write it again. And I wrote it again. And it was the most peaceful, amazing day. I walked to the corner and got coffee. I live near the mountains. The weather was warm. So I saw it and I felt it. Like I really could feel this ideal day in my core. And in that moment, I said, okay, well, what is it going to take to get there? And this is the big like transition for me that created a whole new rhythm to my life, which I'm super grateful for. So I started getting rid of things. It's like, okay, if I want to live free and unattached, I get rid of things. I threw away all my trophies. I'm not suggesting anyone go throw away all their trophies. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I was so attached to that identity and those, I know how to make new trophies. Like if I really want to get it, you can get them done again. So I put everything that I had, the possessions out. I said, what's going to stop me from getting to the next rhythm and to this vision that I had? Put everything out. So here's the steps, I think, would be most valuable. Put everything out in front of me. And then I got rid of everything that wasn't essential to me getting to my goal. So you put it all out there, then you sort, throw it away. And then the things that I wanted to keep, I kept, which were small. I even left my apartment. So the things that cost the most, left the apartment, but I kept my car because I needed it at that time. And then, Ellie, the craziest thing happened. Someone DM'd me. Now we're in 2020 and COVID shut the world down. I get a DM on Instagram from someone who's a basketball coach who says, we are, he says, I am coaching a team in Manizales, Colombia, and we're looking for some help in training with our team. I don't know what Manizales is, but I had friends who lived in Medellin. I called my friend in Medellin. I'm like, I got this DM about this basketball opportunity in Manizales. He's like, yeah, it's just an hour away. You can totally come to Medellin, visit for a few days, then go do the basketball clinic for the girls in Manizales. I look it up, Ellie. I booked the flight, December of 2020. So it's like a year later. So my point there is you get the vision. It doesn't happen immediately. I started preparing for it. And then in December of 2020, I took the flight to Colombia. And when I got off the plane, got in the car, went through the tunnel out of the airport in Medellin, I was like, oh my God, this is the vision that I had a year prior. I had no idea that it would be what it was. And so that's what led me there. I was there for 2 weeks. Before I left, I booked my flight back. I was like, oh, I'm coming back to Medellin. Like, this is exactly what I saw a year prior. This is what I've been preparing for. And so put everything out there, get rid of what you don't need, move toward that vision. And then when the opportunities start, because it's going to lighten your load and open the door for so many new opportunities to come your way. And then go. So that's how I got to Colombia.
That's a beautiful story. I got a little goosebumps there. It's a nice story.
It was really,
And
yeah.
and yeah, I was actually just talking to a friend about it the other day, how it's sometimes you just need to start with the first steps. Like you said, make it easier for yourself by getting rid of things, for example, that will just
Mm-hmm.
hold it back or make it more difficult for you. Start with the small steps and then things will
Yes.
fall into place. But start prepping with the first steps.
Yes. You just like you believe that it's going to happen. And then you start acting like it's happening already. Like you just move toward it, but you
Mhm.
don't always know how like, that's the beauty and the surprise of life, right? You don't always know what's going to work out to make it happen for you, but you just keep moving toward it. And
Yeah.
then here's the second piece to that story. When I came back to the States from that 2 week trip in Colombia, that's when I really sold. Like I got rid of everything. I sold the car. Like I had a rental property. I sold that. Like I got rid of everything that wasn't essential. I had a couple of boxes that I kept, but
Mhm.
I got rid of tons. I was so light and free. Went to Colombia so light and free, and it was amazing. Changed changed the changed the total rhythm of my life.
Nice. So then you originally went to Colombia for the basketball, but then you went
Yes,
back to Colombia again, right?
yes. I originally went to do the basketball clinic, and then I went back, and I still had a few camps planned in the States. So I went back, and while I was there, one of my friends said, "I know you want to be here." Because there was a whole group of people there, Americans there, and expats there. And he's like, "I know you want to be here. Why don't you try launching this PR agency? Like, and you've already done it for yourself. So I've published a few books, did all the PR for myself. So why don't you just do that for other people and you can work remote?" This is how I became a remote worker, or a nomad. And and I did it. I made a Facebook post and was like, "Hey, does anybody need PR help and want to like get on podcasts and talk to people about their great work?" And people said yes. And I told them what I could do for them. And then they started paying me. And I was like, "Oh God, this is working. It's amazing. I'm officially a digital nomad." And so through that, I learned how to build a business, build a team, put standard operating procedures in place. And that started the new rhythm that I'm in now.
What was it about Colombia that made you want to come back and stay?
Girl, first, it is the mountains. The mountains are just in Medellin, the mountains are everywhere. And the sunsets are unmatched. The most beautiful sunsets I'd ever seen. The salsa dancing, oh Lord, I love to dance. And so the dancing was incredible. But I think more than anything, it's the energy of the people. People were so kind and welcoming. And when I had that first taste of mango juice, Ellie, my whole soul just was so happy because I don't have that. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. You don't have fresh mango juice where the mangoes are made in St. Louis, right? The climate doesn't allow for it. And so that was just amazing and a great community. So it was the food, the climate, the community, as well as the culture.
Community is always so important, wherever you go.
It
And
is.
yeah, I'm glad you had friends there that supported you along the way as well, giving you tips and hey, just start your own business,
Hmm.
and it worked out. That's
Yes,
um,
thank you.
go
It
ahead,
makes a
sorry.
difference. I was just going to say it makes a big difference. So if there are people who are thinking about being nomads, start talking to people who are nomads, figure out how they did it, how they're making it, and see if either you could help them with your skills or they can help you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's actually also why I started the podcast in the first place,
Mhm.
is I was just talking to other nomads, and it's just so nice to hear all the different stories, all the different ways, because there's plenty of opportunities to start whatever you want to start. Mm.
Yes, there are. And then there are some people, we talked about this in our initial call that have full time jobs and they're working full time, but they're living in other places. So some people start businesses and others don't. Either way, it's good.
You were in Colombia for how long in total?
2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
So how was
Yeah.
the transition of coming back? You're back in
I
the
had some
US.
withdrawals. I definitely had some withdrawals to coming back, but I needed to come back. It was time to come back, closer to family and do things. The transition back was really similar because I have the same lifestyle. Essentially, I'm still working from home. I can go out on walks. I'm in a warm climate. I'm in Dallas, Texas, so it's still pretty
That's
warm
good.
here. So, for those who are thinking about, oh, it's time to move back, if you loved where you were, try, if you can, to create as much of the same lifestyle as you had before. I have, because so much is imported, from Colombia. The flowers in my apartment of Colombian. I drink Colombian coffee. I have Colombian like dark chocolate. So I'm still very much connected to the country.
You created a little Colombia for yourself.
Yeah. And I salsa dance every morning. Like I wake up and I turn on some salsa music. So it's
Nice,
still
yes.
the places we go stay with us.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, because I noticed for myself for a while I did like on and off digital nomading where I was go for like 1 or 2 months somewhere and then come back to
Mhm.
Germany for a little while. And I was working remotely. And I always found myself when I was back home, I had the tendency to just fall back into like a slump, especially in winter in Germany. It's just I would fall back into like the home office slump. Do you have any
Mhm.
routines or learnings from your digital nomad time that you've taken with you?
I would say find the things that you enjoy that are active because sitting, for example, the salsa dancing, like that was very much something I picked up there that I carried here. So if there were things that you enjoyed in a place that can get your body and mind and heart engaged in what you love, that makes a big difference. A big, big difference. Whether it's foods, maybe there's
Mhm.
some food that you have that you can cook, or dancing, or depending on where you are as well, try to find that community where you are. So I'll go to Colombian restaurants, the salsa dancing community, even the library near me has twice a month Spanish meetups. So I can still continue to speak Spanish. So you have to be really intentional about finding what you loved in the other places wherever you are, if possible.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah, I
I
hope that's
should have I
helpful.
should have been doing that.
That's
Because no,
okay.
I realized I love hiking, for example, but in Germany I never went hiking. So I don't know why.
Mhm.
There's plenty of mountains. I never did it. But yeah, if I ever do go back to Germany, I'll take that with me.
Yes. That's so great, and then you can share it with others. The experiences that we have, although we experience them, but what we're able to give to others because of our experiences is a real gift.
Thank you very much. I usually, in my episodes that I do with people here on Madeira, I always ask for a favorite Madeira moment. I don't think you've been on Madeira, but is
I
there,
haven't, not yet,
we
not
can
yet.
expand it. Yes, you should check it out.
I
But
need to.
is there a favorite Colombia moment for you where you say, wow, that really was exactly when I realized I'm living my vision.
Yes, the first moments that pops to mind, my 40th birthday. In Medellin, we were at this rooftop, and there were people were from Colombia, Venezuela, my American friends. It was just the most diverse group of people. And we were dancing and having an amazing time. But you can look out and see the mountains. That was one of my favorite, by far, one of my favorite days in Medellin, without question.
That sounds like a great birthday.
It,
Nice. Yeah.
girl, it was a it was a great birthday. It was literally perfect.
Nice. Yeah, actually, I
Yeah.
had a call with a friend from Peru earlier today, and we also talked about, so I don't know how we got to it. We talked about the different party styles in the US versus in America, where he also said he lives in the US now and he just misses it, you know, it's just a different vibe there.
It is. It is. But the time in Medellin was unmatched. South America was unmatched. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Sounds great. Do you have any travel plans coming up again, or are you settled for now and happy with your Colombian American lifestyle, let's say?
I am very happy with my Colombian American lifestyle. I think about travel all the time though. It's always on my mind. But for Q1, the next few months, I'm gonna sit still for a bit. But I have tons of ideas and thoughts. Being in the States, though, I really want to go to some national parks. There's some
Mhm.
wonderful hiking, some beautiful. The mountains in Colombia really made me want to be around that a bit more. So I have some plans of going to some places with some mountains here in the spring and summer. And of course,
Yes.
back to Colombia. I say I plan to, yeah,
Okay.
I'll go back there a few more times this year. It's just not planned, but that is going to happen as well.
Okay. You're still in touch with everybody from there. Oh,
Yes, we work together. Yeah, we work together with
oh,
Speaker Hub,
that's
so some of our team is there, so I'll definitely go back.
great.
Yeah.
Then that's also sometimes I like it even it's so nice when you travel, you have friends everywhere and you just go and visit them after and
Mhm.
catch up. It's a good
Yes,
reason to travel then, to continue to
it
travel.
is. It is. It makes it even more special.
Again, we're back to the
Yeah.
community, right? It always
Mhm.
circles back
It's
to
important.
community in your life. Yeah, so nice.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
thank
sharing your
you.
journey and your stories. It's been I really want to go to Colombia now.
Yes, you have to go. Go to Medellin. You have to go to Medellin. You have to. You'll love it.
Yeah, yes. But I'll take a bit of Madeira with me wherever I go now.
Absolutely, and I need to visit Madeira.
Great. Yes, thank you again for taking the time to be here on the podcast. It's been such a nice talk with you and nice,
Yes, yes.
interesting, different perspective from the usual Madeira stories that we always have.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Ellie. I really appreciate it. And I think what you're doing is great to help more people. Like, I know that you're going through transitions, and so you're going through it and talking through it and helping other people do the same. So it's really important to share our voices and our experiences.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You Well,
Great.
if
Yeah,
anyone
I
has
really,
questions about Medellin, I'm happy to answer them. You can find me on LinkedIn. If someone wants to talk about Medellin or has questions, I'll give you all my links, and so
yes, I'll make
happy
sure
to
to
share
put
that.
it all in the description. So if anybody wants to learn more, well, can reach out to
Yeah,
you.
happy
Yeah.
happy to share.
Great. Thank you, Angela.
Thanks. Have a great day.
So, thank you all for listening to our conversation today. I hope everyone found it as interesting as I did, and you were all able to take some learnings with it and get a little more curious about the lifestyle. Of course, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You will find all social media and website links in the description of the episode. And if you want to hear more digital nomad stories, of course, please follow Poncha Talk on social media at Poncha Talk. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.